Hey everybody, welcome to Fed by Fire. I'm Christian Whitlow. Take a seat and get comfortable because today we're going deep into a story that's been running along America's highways for decades. A story of ICE, trucking, fatal crashes, smuggling, prostitution, and human exploitation. It's raw, it's real, and it touches people on and off the road. So, long-haul trucking is high pressure, deadlines, miles passing under black tires, and the constant demand to move freight. It wears on the body, and some drivers turn to stimulants like ice to stay awake. They call it, just to finish the run, but stimulants mask fatigue, impair judgment, and set a stage for disaster. We'll cover ice trafficking, trucker drug use, fatal crashes, smuggling networks, prostitution at truck stops, and my personal tie-in. And by the end, you'll see why these highways aren't just roads for commerce, they're conduits for risk, addiction, and human exploitation. So, let's get into it. First, we're going to talk about smuggling in trucking. Trucking has been one of the most effective tools for drug traffickers as long as we can remember. Semi-trailers carry thousands of pounds of legitimate freight, and hidden inside, traffickers move drugs across state lines and borders every day. At the Otay Mesa commercial facility in Southern California, CBP officers discovered ice in the floor frame of a tractor trailer valued at $3.2 million. In Calexico, over 1,300 pounds were hidden inside of fuel tanks and duffel bags. In Merida, California, 761 pounds of liquid found in diesel fuel compartments, the largest seizure in the Border Patrol sector in 2 years. A major federal case in April 2025 involved a drug trafficking organization moving liquid ice from Mexico into Oklahoma and Georgia. They used semi-trucks that belongs to companies like DGC Express and Dare Express. Over several years, they transported roughly 16,000 kilograms of ice, about 35,000 pounds worth, and $64 million estimated. Multiple seizures occurred along the way, and one in Oklahoma City, and the members of the organization were also involved in money laundering. They go hand in hand, sometimes tied to prison gang networks, and many received decades in federal prison that were tied to the conspiracy. Other innovative smuggling methods have included hiding in tires, going through the Laredo border. In one case, they found 53 keys concealed in tires, and defendants received 78 and 96 months in their sentences. Another driver transported 253 keys of liquid in an auxiliary gas tank, resulting in a 10-year federal sentence. And these examples illustrate the extreme length that truckers go to exploit trucks and logistics chains. Let's get into section 2, trucker use and fatal crashes. Long-haul trucking is grueling. Drivers work long hours with little rest, often face pressure from companies as well as customers, and ice has been used to stay awake, but the consequences are devastating. Stimulants mask fatigue, and like we said, they impair judgment and slow reaction times. The perfect storm for, an accident. So in Nevada, a man hit 5 cyclists. In December 2020, Jordan Alexander Barson, a box truck driver, high on ice, plowed into a group of cyclists on U.S. Highway 95. 5 were killed and several were injured. They found his the fatigue was due to his ice use through blood tests, and it showed it was about 9 times the legal level for impairment. He pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 16 years, which is not that bad, but this tragedy demonstrates how ice impairs and that can kill innocent people in an instant. In Chattanooga, Tennessee, a construction zone fatality happened. Another NTSB investigation involved a tractor trailer colliding with slow traffic in a work zone outside of Chattanooga. Ice use and fatigue had impaired the driver and his reaction time. Multiple fatalities occurred in this case. Just shows that impairment affects perception, decision making, and situational awareness, not just sleep. There are Oregon cases, multiple ICE positive trucker collisions, and several truckers testing positive for ICE that have been involved in fatal collisions. And these are just some examples. If you want to look into these cases themselves, you can, but this contributes to highway deaths, and the consistent pattern is clear that ICE use, fatigue, and long hours create extreme danger. Let's get into section 3, prostitution and historical modern context. Historically, lot lizards were women soliciting drivers at truck stops. Some were independent, some controlled by pimps, and federal operations like Operation Stormy Nights in 2004 uncovered networks forcing minors into prostitution along highway corridors. But today, security at major truck stops has dramatically improved. Cameras, lighting, and patrols deter visible solicitation, but prostitution still occurs, but is largely discreet, moving online or into private arrangements. Trafficking, coercion, and exploitation still exist, especially for minors or vulnerable adults. Programs like Truckers Against Trafficking train drivers to spot signs of trafficking and report suspicious activity. Now let's get into my personal story. Alright, and this one is a doozy, you guys. I want to share a little bit of my own experience. So I lost my virginity at 13 to a lot lizard. And, that was my choice. But some people would say it was abuse. And, it shaped how I see the trucker experience. My other interactions with truckers were, in some different cases, they acted as sugar daddies for girls that I knew or was with. These transactional relationships, sometimes manipulative, reflect the economic and the power imbalances in the trucking world. Sharing the highlights, the real human impact behind statistics and seizures and crashes. So, let's talk about patterns, lessons, and public safety next. So, across all of these cases, patterns emerge. Trucks are used to transport massive quantities of often ice and other drugs, often hidden in compartments of fuel tanks. Methods abused by drivers to combat fatigue, contributing directly to fatal crashes, and prostitution and trafficking continue along highways, but a lot more discreetly than the past. Law enforcement has improved detection through canine units, imaging, and federal prosecution. The human cost, though, is immense. Every fatal crash, every trafficked individual, every coerced person reminds us these highways carry more than freight. And enforcement, awareness, and accountability are critical for public safety, and we all know that. So, that's all for this one. Today, we have covered it all. ICE trafficking, ICE using fatal crashes, smuggling networks, prostitution, my personal experience. These highways are conduits for commerce, yes, but also risk for addiction, exploitation. Awareness is the first defense. Reporting suspicious activity can sometimes save lives. This is Fed by Fire, where we break down stories most people ignore. Raw, real, relentless. Thank you for spending time with me. Watch the road, know the risk, and stay alive out there. And I want to hear from you. If you've lived an interesting life, been through some unique experiences, and you want to put your story out there, we can do that. I could either come to you and film, we can meet, or we could do it on StreamYard. Or if you'd like to have me as a guest on your platform, my email, like always, is in the description. Peace.